What the hell am I going to do with a llama? I hate llamas. Listen, buddy, I pay you a ton of money to stock my zoo, and I want fun animals. You know, elephants, kangaroos, and monkeys. Not just any monkeys either. I want the ones with the shiny red butts.
Thanks for staying up later. Tom Arnold is with us. He, of course, is Jackie Thomas in The Jackie Thomas Show, which follows Roseanne Tuesday nights on ABC. Are you keeping up with television's so-called 4/5 rule? Somebody told me about this week. I was unschooled. They said there's a 4/5 rule, that a show is deemed successful if it meets or exceeds 4/5 of the lead-in.
Well, that's not my rule. My rule is 3/5.
Are you pleased generally with the reaction to the show? See, I think that the negative reviews and Roseanne's response to them got so much press that a lot of people think that's the response. Then I go through the research and I see a lot of very positive reviews, including from some of the most respected critics.
Right. Well, it was 90% good reviews, and I was real happy to get good reviews. And it was the first time in any of my work that I've gotten that many good reviews. So it was great, and I think they got what the show was about, and I was real happy with it. And I'm happy with the audience response. And you know, I'm just wanting to build the show and develop the characters and continue. What troubles you the most about what you think is out there about your image or you and Rosie together? I don't know. Things have changed a lot in the last year, Bob.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and for Rosie. I think what troubles me is probably the thing that keeps fans interested. What troubles me is that there's a lot of times you'll read, and there's in media you've got the good guys that are real good at their job, the guys that are fair at their job, and the guys that aren't any good at their job, just like you do in any field. And the guys that aren't so good, they grab at a lot of the same stuff over and over. And there's a lot of negativity about Rosie and I or me. That bothers me. But that also is what our fans, they get defensive of it, and they watch the show, and they don't like it. So in a way, that's what keeps us going, too.
It's a double-edged sword in a way, because Roseanne is a well-written, smart show, stands on its own merits.
Yes.
But also part of the continued success of it is the mega celebrity. Hard to say what part, but part of it. Part of whatever success you enjoy, at least at the outset, until the show gains its own legs, is off that celebrity. So you both benefit from it, and you're hurt by it.
Right. But I think we mostly benefit from it, obviously. And the Roseanne show is because of not necessarily the celebrity, but the character of Roseanne, the person, as well as the Roseanne Connor, the character. And that gave us a chance to get that show in shape. It took us 2 years to get the Roseanne show where the other characters were up, you know, and everybody was happening. But for 2 years, we survived off Roseanne, her character. And then we brought that up. And I think with Jackie Thomas show, it took us about 14 episodes, which we just finished the 14th, to bring the other characters up. So that Jackie, the character, did not have to carry the show. And you'd see the difference between the first episode and the 14th, where it's more of an ensemble, and that's what we needed to do.
It's obvious that you feel ambivalently about it, because to a certain extent, you revel in it. And to a certain extent, you've enjoyed talking about things in your past. It's gotten them out in the open, maybe, put them on the shelf, and you can move on past it. Right. But anytime that you're this visible, not just recognizable, but the constant subject of gossipy stuff and celebrity type stuff, there is a wicked price to pay.
Yeah. Well, it's a real good lesson in turning things over. In other words, not dwelling and internalizing things. To be able to take the negative stuff and just say, well, I have no control over that, you know, I'm going to put it over here. It's hard to do. It still hurts sometimes. But to get to the point where you can do that makes you a healthier person. And there are, like I say, there's a lot of advantages to being a celebrity and being successful, and they far outweigh the disadvantages. But you know, Rosie and I, this is what we're being given, and we're going to take it and we accept it, and we're doing the best we can with it.
Obviously, it still hurts sometimes, though. A bad review has the power to hurt, as witness Rosie's response to some of them when Jackie Thomas came out, right?
Yes. Well, if someone says that you have absolutely no talent, and that you're just a gold digger or whatever. If someone says you have no talent, though, that to me, it hurts because it's so out of line. I mean, obviously, you know, if you say, I don't like this particular piece of work, I don't like this, when you say this guy has absolutely no talent whatsoever, well, that just, you know, it makes him look kind of stupid, for one thing. because it's just not really fair. But they do have the right to say that. But sometimes I read that and I go, you know, but you know that happens. I think it's good to keep my ego in check.
Are you resigned to the fact that some of it will always happen, to one extent or another? Maybe the proportion will be reduced, but if you're this visible, some of it will always happen, and you can't respond to it and set it all right.
Right, and that's a good lesson to learn. And it will always, anytime you're successful, and we've been successful, and we've been lucky, and we've worked really hard, there are people that are going to knock you, because the more success you get, the more people knock you. And that is just the way it's always been. And, you know, we can deal with it. I can deal with it, and I have to be able to.
I think the notion of coming right out front and making your show, and a lot of what you do, like when you come on programs,
Right.
a little bit self-mocking, is the best way to disarm this stuff. Because naturally, when somebody's wife or husband is as famous and successful before the other person ventures out on their own, the first thing they're going to say is, hey, you know, it's
right.
nepotism, this is the deal, it's a setup, and people
right.
have a natural resentment
They do.
toward that stuff.
That's weird. I probably have that resentment, too, inside of me. I've never examined it. But people do have that. That's what they're going to say. They believe that there can't possibly be two talented people in the same family or in the same marriage, when, in fact, it seems like that would probably be the way it would be. It seems like they might have the same, if they have the same bloodline or if they have a lot in common, it's possible that two people could be very talented.
Well, the fact is, time is going to tell.
Absolutely.
There's only so much inertia off curiosity, off celebrity,
That's
and then
true.
the rest of the legs has to come from the success of the show on its own merits.
Absolutely.
And the self-parodying, if that's not overstating it, at least self-mocking, a little poke in your own ribs, runs through the whole show.
Right. But, you know, also what we've got to develop is the other characters. I mean, the self-mocking, the show itself is obviously self-mocking, the fact that I have a show and then I'm playing a TV star. So, but what's important to make the show a success is to bring the other characters up within the show.
And the guy, Jackie Thomas, worked in a slaughterhouse.
Yes, he did. He's from Iowa.
And you worked in a slaughterhouse in Iowa as well, right? And
For 3 years.
And you've had your run-ins, or at least you've been characterized as a guy who's been tough to work for, and this guy is so tyrannical that it's comical.
Exactly.
Is it cathartic for you?
Yeah, it's cathartic in the way that we're taking some negativity, you know, a lot of the negative press, the beady image of Rosie and I, and turning it into something positive and funny. That is cathartic, is seeing that happen, and my own image, having a little fun with that, because I think that if you put a show on where you had the star of a show was a guy that we worked at a meatpacking plant a few years ago, now he's the star of a show, people would go, yeah, that's TV sitcom, because that could never happen. But we know it did happen.
What was it like when you actually worked in the slaughterhouse or meatpacking plant?
It was a good job for Ottumwa, Iowa. You know, it was the best job in town. It was good pay back then. They still had a union. It was before Reagan was in office too long, and it was about $13 an hour. It was really good money in the early 80s. And I had a lot of friends there, buddies, and there was a lot of camaraderie. But it was pretty repetitious, and I was pretty unhappy, and it wasn't a place to be creative, and there's a place to get in trouble for being creative. I mean, what can you do with carcasses? Well, actually,
that is my question.
Yeah. Well, I would take... this one job where all these heads came by me, head, and I was supposed to cut the meat right here, which is real good meat. I chiseled heads, as it was called. I'd cut the whole thing off. They had the big old ears, and I'd cut the whole strip of head off and put it on my helmet and just keep working, you know. And the whole plant would shut down, and I'd get written up. And I always had 3 strikes you're out, as you know. Yeah. Always had 2 strikes the whole time I worked there. If one of them, you know, we strike lasted for 30 days, and if you're good, it went away, I'd get another one, because I wanted to be right, you know.
So as soon as you got a little cushion, you'd pop that second strike back in there.
And my grandpa had worked at the packing plant for 50 years. And my dad had worked there, and my uncle had worked there, and everybody in town had worked there. So I was pretty happy to be working there, but my original dreams growing up of being a television star, movie star, were fading, because I couldn't figure out, you know, when you're still in high school and junior high, you can dream, you know, how's it going to happen? Who knows, but it's going to happen, you know, a miracle. But then you start working at the packing plant for a few years, and you're sitting there chiseling them heads, and you're going, now what would have to happen for me to get to Hollywood? And you're in a big freezer with no windows, man, it would be a hell of a miracle.
You went on Arsenio in one of these shows, and you get on there, right, and the whole thing at the beginning, you can probably set it up better than me, but I'll just do it real quick. You're telling the writers and the producers, hey, I'll go on there, and, you know, give everybody all the credit they deserve, the thing is going great, and then you get on and you're the biggest schmuck in the world.
Right.
What makes the show work?
Well, I'll tell you, Arsenio, any good show, as you know, starts off with the writing. And that's why I write all the scripts myself.
No, but you have a lot of writers that help you out, I'm sure. You know, I mean...
I wish, man. You know, when I get the scripts, they're like train wrecks. I'm serious. Any of you guys know how to write? Anybody know anybody that knows how to write? Kids? Weird uncles? Gym teachers? You want a job?
Damn, you brutal, Jackie. Gym teachers.
I got that from Rosie, because she went on the Letterman show about 3 years ago, and right before she went on, we discussed what she was going to talk about, and she was unhappy with the writers on the Roseanne show at the time, and we talked about doing a couple jokes about the writers, or telling them how it was. She went on, she said she was unhappy with the writers, she did a couple jokes about them. We got back to work, the writers all had black armbands on, they were all depressed and everything, but I'll tell you, it got things going. It was in the press that she'd done that, and, you know, I don't know how those things work for ratings, but sometimes that, you know, and we eventually fired the writers and got better ones in, so it all turned out great.
Yeah, the way that came down was probably the single thing that caused the most negative reaction, right? The notion that you would come along and then house was clean.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know.
Well, yeah, and it's true that, you know, it's not true that I came in and said, you know, this is Rosie, here's what we got to do, here's what we got to do. It's true that Rosie wanted, before I came in, things done a certain way, and she had no idea how to get them done. I came in and got them all done, and it was a process of eliminating people that were not involved with the same vision of the Roseanne show that she was, and people that were being negative to her, and it meant a lot of her family members, and it meant a lot of the whole writing staff, and it meant all the producers, and it meant a lot of people that we turned over, and now we've got a great staff, and we've got another family, and because you can get them, there's a lot of them out there, and we're doing good. But you get a lot of negative people around, and so people say, well, this guy, there were so many people that got fired, and you know, there was an ex-husband, there was sisters or whatever, that these people said, it can't be us, it's got to be the one guy, it's got to be Tom, he's the bad guy, we're all doing good, you know, we're helping, but as it turns out, it's not the way it was.
Was there anything in that period of time that you look back on and regret? I don't mean the reaction to it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean regret having done it.
I regret using drugs all the time. You know, I just was, you know, I got to a point, particularly after they tried to fire me, where I just said, screw it, man, and I just was, you know, using drugs constantly, and although still going to the office, and, you know, I go to the meetings at the network, I remember one meeting sitting with Bob Iger and Rosie at ABC, and I was just, and everybody knew it, but, you know, it was the thing I regret the most, you know, about drugs and about living that life was lying to Rosie, because, you know, constantly saying, no, I'm sober, I've got allergies, you know, it was tough, and it was, and I convinced her to believe me, and it was real hard. I guess I regret that the most.
What convinced you? Usually they say somebody has to hit bottom in some way, at least in their own mind.
Definitely. Rosie left me, and in December of 1989, and she was gone. You know, it wasn't a little fight, and she was gone, and I knew that she was going to be gone. I knew it was over. And so, you know, I just finally called her back to the house and talked her to come back, and I said, I can't control this drugs. I've been doing them for 6 weeks now, and I can't stop, and I'm going to continue doing them. I'm screwed up. I'm sick. And then I got in a cab and went over to rehab, and for 30 days, and about 8 days, you know, first week I was there, I kept thinking, I got to get Rosie back. You know, this is, I got to manipulate. I got to be the master manipulator that I am. And on the 8th day I was there, I said, screw it, man. I just want to get sober for myself. You know, just give that a try. First time in my life. And that was my spiritual awakening, and that was my miracle. For just 1 minute to want to do it for myself. And then since then, I've been sober, and it's something I work on every day, you know, because I could go back there in a second. You say the wrong thing to me, Bob, I could be back there.
It's an awesome responsibility here. I don't want to trip the trigger.
No, there's a few more things that would have to happen, but that's what I regret the most, and just living that lie.
And we're back with Tom Arnold. Was there any benefit, you think, from, you mentioned it a while ago, the faxing controversy. Mm-hmm. Any benefit from that?
Yeah, Rosie, there's always a benefit when somebody speaks honestly about their feelings, and Rosie did that, and I think they're going to think twice before they use a sexist term to describe her. And I think they also, they'll do it, but they're going to know, they're going to be on trial a little bit. Particularly the guy from USA Today who is continually doing this. I think the thing about the faxes was she sent 3. 2 of them were purely humorous. One was a good review of the show. And he just wrote it. He started out by saying, Tom Arnold is the most unfunny person on the planet, but, you know, I love the show. Okay, so she wrote it, you know, you're the most unperceptive person on the planet, and I look forward to reading your critiques like a person look forward to anal warts. And it was very funny. And then she wrote to the gentleman from the LA Times and just turned it was so funny. She said she's going to cast a character to play a mousy, effeminate man that doesn't like TV. He's going to play him. And the guy doesn't like anything on TV, the guy from LA Times, which is funny. And he thought it was funny, too. The guy, Matt Roush from USA Today, had done these sexual remarks. You know, he called her a bitch, a bimbo, and this is in reviews of her work, including the Roseanne show. Now, it's out of line. She called him a name that is a horrible name. She wrote to him privately, sent him. She wanted to know how that felt, how those names, bitch, bimbo, shrew, feel for a woman. And she took his sexuality and put it back at him. And that was just between him and her. Now she
didn't intend for that to be public.
No, absolutely not. He released it, and yes, it was, and it was a painful. It's a bad word, you know, but so were the other words. And she was making a point. She's a writer, and I thought it was great. I was very proud of her, and I'm absolutely glad she did it.
So your feeling and hers was this didn't reflect how she feels about that particular sexual orientation
Absolutely
or anything like that. It was like, look, this is how it would feel if someone hit you with a shot to the gut.
And I'll tell you something else too. It's like this. You know, Rosie has a lot of gay fans, and obviously we support gays. We love them. Rosie has them in her family. We have many friends that are gay. We have people on the show that are gay. We're the only show that does the constant, you know. So I think everybody knows how we stand on it. Rosie the only thing is, when she wrote the letter, you know how when you're with a couple gay guys, and they might call themselves that name, and it's kind of okay. I don't know if it's okay or not, but let's put it this way.
Just they'll like call each other back and forth. Some blacks will use a phrase that you or I would never use toward a black.
And and I hear them use that, and I go, you know, that's. But I don't know if it's my place to judge. I don't know, but it makes me nervous either way. Rosie has been around gays, and she had so many friends that she used the term. It's kind of an inside thing. I want you to know. I know what will hurt you, and this is what will hurt you because I know. You know, I know something about what your life is like. Kind of an inside thing, just between you and I. And then the guy went and made it public. You know, she was trying to make a point to somebody that she felt she kind of had the inside track on. And maybe, you know, obviously the point didn't work with him. But I think it probably did.
Do you have any concern that when this stuff happens, even if you've made your point, that other writers who maybe didn't have an axe to grind with you say, well, he's attacked some of our colleagues?
That happens. And I got several bad reviews of myself personally and Jackie Thomas after Rosie said the facts. It's people that didn't even review the show originally just to stand up for their buddies. And, you know, that happens. You know, we all stand up for people in our business, although they're supposed to be objective. I sent Matt Roush a fax the same time Rosie sent
USA Today.
USA Today, that said, you are, I wrote, 2 years before that, he'd written a review of my first HBO special saying that he knew I was going to have a TV series and he was not going to like it because he doesn't like anything I do. He turns off the TV when I'm on. So I wrote, and after he gave my Jackie Thomas show a bad review, I wrote him a fax and I said, you are unable to be objective. And if you're a judge, you would have to pull yourself off the case. So I'm never going to send you any more of our work, anything we do at the Roseanne Show, my show, any other work we do, which is what Bill Cosby did to the same guy. And that's how I handle it. Business, like an executive producer would handle it. And so when he says that Rosie's defending me, it's not about defending me at all. It's about defending herself. I took care of what I needed to do for the show.
You pay for it, don't get mad, just say, I'm telling Ken.
The Jackie Thomas Show on ABC Tuesday nights at 9:30 Eastern and Pacific. I guess that makes it 8:30 Central Time. Thank you, Tom.
Okay, buddy.
All right, Tom Arnold. See you later.
All right, Bob.